roles for me. So I'm Julie Dickens, and I'm a professional therapy services here at the Royal Liverpool Hospital. And my substantive role is as General Manager of the Therapies Directorate. I'm currently in a different role, which more of which later on. So just to tell you a little bit about me, I qualified as a physiotherapist in 1988, which I realise is before some people were even born, but you know. But it's 30 years this year since I qualified. So sometimes when you reach milestones like that, I think it's really just makes you reflect a little bit and just think where things are up to. And I've been privileged to have a varied career, clinical, academic, and then into management. And I think also days like today, attending conferences helps us to reflect. It gives us the headspace to reflect sometimes, which we don't always get in our busy day-to-day working lives. So when we do reflect, what do we feel about where we're up to with professions as AHPs? There's been some really obvious changes over the course of my career, and I'm sure over yours too. So there have been changes in practice that are common throughout different professions. So for example, I know for a fact that when you work respiratory over weekend these days, in urgent cases, you don't have to go and find your patient in the smoking room on the ward and persuade them to stuff a ciggy out and come and let their chest be treated. So there'll be things like that in all your professions, I'm sure, where things have just changed markedly from how they used to be. And locally, I think, obviously talking from my own experience in our organisation, I think there's been really steady progress towards having the skills and the talents, really, of AHPs much better acknowledged and well recognised. So I think it's true that there is increasingly acknowledgement that AHPs are key, really, to every part of every patient pathway in healthcare and in social care. So I feel that we've moved beyond the position where, as AHPs, we sort of clamour along behind, remember us, don't forget about us. I think we've gone beyond that now. We're not an afterthought anymore, if we were even thought about at all sometimes. And I often find now that it's actually somebody else in the room, maybe the medical director or the lead nurse, that says, oh, don't forget the AHPs, we must include the AHPs, they are key to this. Somebody did that the other day in a meeting. Somebody in another professional role said, we mustn't forget the AHPs. And somebody said to me, you said that about moving your lips, well done, that's really clever. So, also I think what's true is that there's nothing like a bit of austerity to sort of force people to think differently about skill mix and professions and what's required. So when we think, for example, about value for money, which we're all having to do more and more, you know, it's more well recognised, I think. It's a good prompt to people to think that for a price of a consultant, you could get 2.5 really highly skilled, talented, autonomous AHP practitioners. And people are starting to recognise that and think about what roles are actually required, what are the tasks that are needed, and actually could other people besides the traditional people fill those roles. So that's all very helpful to us, I think. So I do believe we're becoming much less hidden, much more out there as professions. At the Royal and Broad Green, as you'll have worked out by now, we've got an AHP strategy. So we've really devised that to try and really place at the forefront what our vision is, what our intention is, and really to set out the potential that we can offer as AHPs on that AHP element of the workforce. And of course then you've got to back that up, you've got to prove your worth, haven't you? And I'm sure you all do that day to day by developing services and delivering services which are of a really high quality, and by being innovative and by advocating for patients above all else, really. And it's a strategy that's really led us to the conference here today. The conference has come as part of that road of the strategy, and it's come from one of the work streams of the strategy. So I'm really delighted that we've got such a range of AHPs with us today. We've got ODPs, we've got people from pharmacy, podiatry, dietetics, we've got speech therapists and occupational therapists, we've got physiotherapists and radiographers. And I don't think I've been to an event before which is such all-inclusive in terms of the AHP professions. So I think that's really positive. And I really hope that you've all enjoyed spending time with such a broad range of AHP colleagues today. I'm only sorry that I managed to miss most of today. Unfortunately, that's because somebody in Liverpool hasn't got the message out that just because it's the end of the summer holidays does not mean it's winter. So we seem to have gone straight into winter. We've had a really, really busy day in ED. And I know we say it's busy all the time, but it's like proper busy today. So that's why I had to skip out, unfortunately. But I hope you've had a really good, interesting and stimulating day. I know that we've also got managers here and educators here as well. And we've also got AHPs from quite a wide range of organisations. So I'd like to thank those people who come from other organisations very much for spending some time with us today. And I hope it's been a really useful experience for you. I'd really like to thank all the speakers. So thanks for everyone who's spoken this afternoon and also those who spoke this morning. And especially Sarah Cooper, who came from London today to speak to you as one of the first sessions this morning. She's the fellow from NHS England. And I think that side of the national agenda is really developing and that will only help us all as AHPs. So I hope you have had a stimulating and enjoyable day. What I'd like you to do is just take a moment to cement your learning from today. So just spend a minute just thinking about one or two key learning points that you're going to take away. Just make a little note for yourself. You can write it down if you want, or you can remember it, that's fine. So what are your key learning points from today? And then just spend a minute just sharing them with a colleague next to you. Just tell your mate what you think you're going to take away from today's message. I'd also like to thank those people who've shared their knowledge and their experience through the poster presentations. And again, I hope you've all had a chance to speak to the people who delivered those and have a good read and a good look at them and get some really useful learning from those. And I'd like to say a special well done to the winners, who I believe were the mouthcare poster. Are they still in it or well? And valiant efforts to the runners-up, who I believe there was a poster about deaf awareness. So well done to you people. And then the third prize was, did you say prize? What are the prizes?
There was a prize for me.
Okay.
First place.
Third place then, it was around Policy Improvement Initiative around enteral nutrition for critical care patients. So well done to you. And again, thanks so much for sharing that. And as Sarah was saying this morning, we've really got to get better at sharing our knowledge and our experience, I think, and just putting ourselves forward and putting ourselves into things and awards and things like that. That's something to take away too. I do have a few other people to thank. So Vinny and Rachel and Colette for moving equipment to the venue. No idea what they moved, but it sounds like hard work. So well. A big thank you to the volunteers. Certainly I could not have found my way to this room this morning without people at every corner telling me which way to go next. So many thanks to those. I think they were volunteers from the Royal and Royal Green team. Also speech and language students who helped with registration this morning and did a very professional job, I felt. Thank you to those. Richard, our cameraman over there, although we might be wanting editing rights to the feeling, so thank you, Richard. And also to the therapy managers who helped set up the venue today. Also Ian Spencer and his team, who I believe are the people who work here in the building. So I think it's been quite a nice venue actually. Hope your lunch was alright, I missed out on that as well. But yes, thank you to Ian and his team for providing for us today and no doubt looking after us very well. Thank you to Medi UK for the merchandise. We will be able to tell Amila who came to the conference for the last few weeks while you're carrying your pink bags around. And also to Anne It looks like Nan,
Vanessa.
and Adam for setting up as well. So thank you to those people. There is another person I want to thank though, because it's all very well having big fancy damn ideas about putting on, let's put on an AHP conference, we said a few months ago, that would be great, wouldn't it? But actually you need somebody to really take that forward and help you to actually deliver it. So that person is Melanie. Okay, so that's where we've come from, and that's got us to today. So when we start to reflect and we think about what further progress is to be made, I think there definitely is further progress to be made. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm currently seconded to a position as Deputy Director of Operations in the Trust. I've no doubt that my secondment into that post as an AHP raised a few eyebrows here and there, because people in the senior ops team in our organisation, I don't know if it's the same in other people's organisations, but often they tend to come from a nursing background rather than other professions. So I'm very proudly at the minute flying the flag for AHPs up on the exec corridor. And it puts me in a position where I can have those little conversations that can help just take people's ideas and thoughts forward, I think. So it's proving very useful. You can plant a few seeds here and there, and hopefully that does show some development in the future. And just as a little tip, I think it's always helpful if you have a few facts and figures about your profession, or what is it that you would like to convey as a short, snappy bit of headline to people. Have that ready so that if you get the opportunity, you bump into somebody on the corridor, or you end up in a meeting, or somebody comes to you and asks you what you're thinking about, your profession or your career, or where you think your services should go. Have something ready. There's nothing worse, is there, than walking away going, what should I say about this or that? So have something ready, have something in mind. Just as a little example of that, I find that as an AHP within our organisation, it's a big organisation, we've got about 6,700 staff. If you look at our organisational structure and the very senior exec and below level of the exec, that structure of the organisation, when that comes round and it's shown around, I know if I'm a nurse in the organisation, I can see a very obvious corporate sort of nursing structure that I know is designed to sort of support me in my profession. And equally, if I'm a doctor, I can see that there's a medical director and there's deputy medical directors, and there's quite a number of posts, very dedicated, obvious posts that are there. As an AHP, I'm not sure I quite see the same level of explicit support to us in the organisation. So we have a lead nurse, and our lead AHP is also the chief nurse, so Lisa Grant. Hopefully all of you who work at the Royal and Broad Green know that as well. And she is undoubtedly very, very supportive of us as AHPs. However, she is also the chief nurse, and she's the chief operating officer for the organisation. So in terms of her time, she's a pretty busy person, and so undoubtedly being the lead AHP is probably not the highest thing on her objective. And like Sarah was talking about this morning, that whole thought around perhaps having some more explicit leadership in organisations is becoming much more well recognised now. So maybe having directors of AHPs or directors of therapies, those sorts of posts are starting to pop up in different organisations nationally. And I think that's something that, you could make an argument to say that that's something an organisation of our size perhaps should think about. So I was in a meeting the other day with the director of HR, and I was just making the comment about the fact that out of the 6,700 staff that we've got, about 2,000 of those are nurses, and that makes up about 40% of the clinical workforce. And as I say, there's a very obvious structure to support that part of the workforce. Equally, there's about 600 medical and dental staff. They make up about 12% of the clinical workforce, and they have the very obvious structure. So when you add up the AHPs in our organisation, they actually come to about 650 if you include all the professions that are classed as AHPs. So that's about 14% of the clinical workforce. So equally, you could make the argument to say, is there really a bit of a gap there in terms of the organisational structure and that senior representation? So it's just useful to have a few facts and figures at your fingertips, I think, and that's just something that I would throw out to you to say, maybe something to think about. So, when we reflect and think about going forward, I think we are in very exciting times actually as AHPs. Despite the massive pressures that we face with the ever-increasing demands that are placed upon the NHS, and obviously the very difficult financial situation that we're in. Certainly, I think it's an exciting time to be in Liverpool. We will move into the new Royal within the next year or two. We've got Clactonbridge Cancer Hospital being built on site. We've got the merger with Aintree, and also the Women's will probably become part of our organisation at some part in the future. We've got the Knowledge Quarter being developed, which has got all sorts of exciting elements to it. And we've got the Accelerator building. So I've no doubt, all supported by links with the university, so I've no doubt in the coming 5 to 10 years that this area that you're all in just now will become a really strong health and life sciences campus, and it will have international renown. So there is so much opportunity there for people like yourselves in this area. And then if you think about the national picture, I think really one of the most exciting developments for AHPs in recent years is the expanding dedicated AHP resource at NHS Improvement, at NHS England, Health Education England and Public Health England. So the sort of people and structures that Sarah was talking about this morning. So they're doing really great work to take forward the cause of AHPs and to make sure that that recognition is there. And that as part of the workforce we are fully recognised. And our talents and our skills are harnessed to their best degree really. So from a national perspective, you've got people like Joe Fillingham, Suzanne Rastrick, Caroline Poole, people like Sarah, the clinical fellows. So I hope that those are people that you know about. If you didn't know about them before, you know about them now. There are people that you can follow on social media, you can link into them, you can get onto their mailing lists, become part of this national movement because it is really exciting and it will take us further forward into the future. So the sorts of things that Sarah talked about this morning was things like the AHP's Into Action mandate, and I think that really started to kick off what I see as quite a snowball that's forming. She also talked about the work they're doing around leadership, so that's leadership at every level, but also leadership at very senior levels within organisations that do have a particular remit around AHPs. She talked about stuff that they're doing around workforce, so we know there's lots of resources coming from that. There's tools that can help us determine our workforce, looking at things like advanced practice, and Sarah also mentioned this morning about the shortage professions and how we can look at those differently. She talked about job planning, which is something that we've started to think about in our organisation. She also talked about model hospital, and when we're in such economic situations as we are now, it's really important that we do a lot of benchmarking. So we look at what our services cost and we do a lot of benchmarking with other services. And that's where things like the model hospital tools can really help us. And she also talked about the digital agenda and how we look forward from that perspective. So there's a whole range of activity and resource and knowledge that's there to support us and really take us forward. And what I'd ask you to do is just think about how you can get support from that national resource really. How can you link into that? A couple of things that Sarah suggested this morning was she really encouraged us to do things like sending case studies so that we're participating and we're building that knowledge across the nation. To put in for AHP awards, but also to invite people from her team to come to your events. It's worked really well today. I've been to other events where people have been invited. You sort of feel they're not going to come, but they do come. They want to come. They want to come and meet AHPs across the country. So do tap into them as a resource and ask them along. Ask them to come and see what you do locally. Engage in the health and wellbeing collaborations. And she also mentioned about the AHP Day on the 15th of October. So, just as your last bit of commitment, we nail you down to something positive from the day, just make a little note for yourself of what action you will take forward as a result of today. What are you going to do? What do I think about where we are as AHPs? The my view is that with the level of talent and creativity and the skills, but also the commitment that I see from AHPs all around me, along with that increasingly important national resource that's there to support us, that is really developing apace, I just think it's a fantastic, exciting time to be an AHP. About any part of today or any of the management? Or any comments? No? Okay, so we'll finish off there. Do give in your evaluation form, please. We do want your evaluation today. It's been a difficult one to pitch in some respects because, as I say, it's been very inclusive in terms of the wide range of AHPs that we've had. And also the fact we've had quite a presence from the Royal and Broad Green, but also invited other people from other organisations. So we're really interested to know, genuinely interested to know, how well we've pitched that and whether we've got it right. So give us your ideas of how we can do that differently in the future. And attendance certificates, have they already been?
They're all in the pink bags.
They're in your bags, your pink bags. Okay, so just to finish off, thanks again so much for coming. Thanks to everyone who's contributed to what I hope we do has been a successful day. And I just would like to wish you all the very best in the future and hope to see you all again at some point. Okay, thank you.